Soft rain is moving across the window. The room is dim. The day keeps going somewhere beyond the glass. And even here, where everything sounds quieter than it did a little while ago, there is still that familiar feeling of holding the breath without meaning to. Not literally all the time. More like the inside of you has been waiting for permission to let something loosen. You may have handled the day. You may have answered what needed answering. You may have kept yourself composed enough that no one would know how much effort it took to stay that way. But underneath all of that, something has been braced. Something has been trying not to fall behind the moment. Something has been listening for the next thing that might need you. And after a while, living that way starts to feel normal. You do not always notice the tension while it is happening. You notice it in the small spaces after. When the noise gets lower, when the next task is not immediately asking for you, when the body realizes it has been holding itself together for longer than it meant to. The rain continues. Arrive, touch, release. Arrive, touch, release. It is not trying to become anything else. It does not hold each drop in place. It arrives, meets what is here, and lets itself move on. That can feel almost unfamiliar when the nervous system has been practicing the opposite, holding conversations after they are over, holding responsibilities before they arrive, holding possible outcomes as though thinking about them long enough might make them safer. There is a kind of tiredness that comes from never fully leaving anything. A small part of you stays with what happened earlier. Another part is already reaching toward what might happen next, and the present becomes something you pass through while trying to keep up with everything else. The body knows that pattern. The jaw that stays a little set, the chest that feels slightly crowded, the shoulders that carry a quiet readiness, even when nothing is being asked of them. And maybe this is what has been hard to name. Not exhaustion exactly, not sadness exactly, not overwhelm in the obvious way. More like the feeling of never getting to fully exhale, because some part of life still feels unfinished. The rain gathers on the glass, then slides. For a moment, attention follows it. There is no reason to. It is just movement. A small release happening without effort. And something in the body seems to understand that before the mind does, the breath becomes a little less supervised. The throat feels less guarded. The chest has a little more room than it had before. Nothing has been solved, nothing has been explained, but less effort is needed to stay upright. Arrive, touch, release. The rhythm comes back differently now, not as a sound, more as a possibility. There may be things you have been carrying because no one else seemed to notice them. There may be worries that became familiar simply because they stayed long enough. There may be hopes you kept close, not because they were small, but because they mattered too much to leave unprotected. And when something matters, the body can tighten around it, not to ruin it, not to push it away, only to keep it safe. But safe and held too tightly can start to feel the same after a while. The rain softens again, less against the window now, more like a steady presence around everything. The body settles closer to what is holding it. More weight is being held. The ground feels steady beneath the part of you that has been trying to stay ready for so long. And maybe the question was never whether you were strong enough to keep carrying everything. You have already shown that you can. Maybe the quieter question is whether everything still needs to be carried the same way. That lands slowly, not as an answer, more like a small space opening between you and the old effort. The future is still there. The responsibilities are still real. The hopes still matter, but they do not press as close as they did before. There is room around them now, room around the unfinished parts, room around the things that are not ready to be understood, room around the version of you that has been doing the best it could, with a nervous system that rarely felt fully off duty. Arrive, touch, release. The rhythm returns again, and this time it feels almost personal. A thought arrives. It touches the mind. It does not need to stay forever. A worry arrives. It touches the body. It does not need to become the whole atmosphere. A hope arrives. It touches something tender. It does not need to be hidden immediately. The breath moves easier now, not forced, not performed, just less trapped behind the need to be ready. The jaw eases again. The shoulders feel less attached to tomorrow. The nervous system stops reaching quite so far ahead. And in that little bit of space, possibility feels different. Not loud, not certain, not asking for belief before it can be felt. Just nearer, safer, less like pressure, more like something that can sit beside you without needing to be defended. The rain continues beyond the glass. The day continues beyond this room. Life continues beyond what has been held so tightly. maybe the exhale was never only about breath. Maybe it was the moment the body realized it did not have to keep proving it could endure. Maybe it was the moment hope stopped feeling like one more thing to manage. Maybe it was this quiet return to a self that had been under the effort all along. Arrive, touch, release. The rhythm returns one final time, gentle, steady, still moving. There are still unknowns. There are still unfinished places. There are still parts of life that have not shown their shape yet. But the body is not as far ahead now. The breath has more room. The future feels less closed. Something is still becoming beyond what can be measured. Something is still opening beyond what can be controlled. Something is still making its way through the quiet. And for this moment, less has to be held. For this moment, the day can keep moving. Life can keep unfolding. And you can finally exhale